Today we have 3 scary prison stories that will keep you awake at night. Please make sure to like and subscribe. It all started with an odd request from a friend who worked as a corrections officer at a maximum security prison in a remote part of the United States. He had been talking about the place for months, boasting about the strict security and the eerie legends surrounding the prison. One evening, he made a chilling proposal. How about spending a night in the prison with me and see for yourself? The idea was both exhilarating and terrifying, but my curiosity got the best of me. I agreed to the adventure, and we began the preparations. The day arrived, and as the sun set, I found myself standing at the imposing gates of the prison. The guards subjected me to an intensive security check, and I was relieved to see that they took their job seriously. As we entered the facility, the heavy metal doors slammed shut behind us. The oppressive atmosphere struck me like a physical blow. The cold, dimly lit corridors, with echoes of distant voices and clanging bars, were a stark reminder that I was now a part of the world behind bars. My friend led me through the labyrinthine passages, the keys jingling ominously in his hand. The prison was eerily quiet, and the silence was punctuated only by the occasional, indecipherable whispers from the cells we passed. We reached death row, the part of the prison with the most harrowing reputation. As we walked by the cells, I couldn't help but glance inside. The eyes of the inmates, their faces etched with despair and hopelessness, seemed to pierce my soul. My friend regaled me with tales of notorious inmates who had resided within these walls, including the deranged and the dangerous. Each cell seemed to have its own chilling history, with whispers of violence, escape attempts, and even ghostly apparitions. One story that sent shivers down my spine was about a notorious inmate who had allegedly taken his own life in his cell. Some claimed that his malevolent spirit still roamed the prison, tormenting both inmates and guards. As the hours passed, my friend's duties demanded his attention, leaving me alone in the cold and oppressive prison. The inmates were locked in their cells, but the air seemed to hum with an eerie energy. I wandered through the darkened hallways, my footsteps echoing ominously. Suddenly, I heard a faint, disembodied whisper that seemed to come from nowhere. My heart raced, and I turned to see a shadowy figure at the end of the corridor. As I approached, the figure materialized into the form of an inmate, clad in prison attire. He spoke in a hushed, desperate tone, as if sharing a long-buried secret. He claimed that he was wrongly convicted and begged for my help. Before I could respond, the lights flickered, and the figure disappeared into thin air. The night seemed to stretch on endlessly, filled with uneasy moments and inexplicable phenomena. The cold, the silence, and the overwhelming sense of despair weighed heavily on me. I longed for the first light of dawn. When morning finally broke, my friend reappeared, and we made our way out of the prison. As we crossed the threshold and the heavy doors closed behind us, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief and liberation. My night in the American prison was an experience I will never forget. It was a stark reminder of the stark realities of incarceration, the haunting stories that permeate these walls, and the chilling encounters that can occur within them. I left with a newfound appreciation for the value of freedom and a deep respect for those who work tirelessly in the unforgiving world behind bars. It was a bone-chilling night in December when I found myself standing at the imposing gates of a maximum security prison in the heart of America. My heart pounded in my chest, a mix of curiosity and fear surging through me as I prepared to step into a world I had only seen in movies and read about in news articles. As the heavy gates clanged shut behind me, I couldn't shake the feeling of being swallowed by the cold, foreboding atmosphere. The guard's stern gaze met mine, and I took my first steps into the echoing silence of the prison. Inside, the prison was a labyrinth of concrete and steel, a stark contrast to the freedom of the outside world. The air was thick with tension, and the distant sounds of clanging doors and muffled voices sent shivers down my spine. I was led through narrow hallways and dimly lit corridors, each step a reminder of the heavy history that permeated the walls. As I walked past the rows of cells, the eyes of the inmates followed my every move. Their stares, filled with a mix of hostility and curiosity, felt like icy fingers trailing down my back. The realization dawned upon me that in this world, I was the outsider, a visitor in a place where the concept of freedom was a distant memory. Nightfall descended upon the prison like a suffocating blanket, plunging the facility into complete darkness. I was given a small, dimly lit room to spend the night, its walls bearing witness to years of desperation and despair. The silence was deafening, broken only by the occasional distant shout or the clinking of metal bars. Alone in my cell, I felt the weight of the prison's history pressing down on me. The knowledge that countless individuals had experienced the same isolation, fear, and uncertainty clawed at my thoughts. As I lay on the cold, unforgiving cot, I couldn't escape the feeling of being watched, as though unseen eyes were studying my every move. In the dead of night, as the world outside slept, I heard whispers, faint, ghostly murmurs that seemed to seep through the cracks in the walls. These were the voices of the incarcerated, their stories of injustice and lost hope echoing through the prison like a haunting refrain. One story, in particular, stood out, the tale of an inmate who had been wrongfully convicted, his life stolen by a flawed system. His voice, filled with bitterness and resignation, reverberated through the silence, leaving a lingering sense of despair in its wake. As the first light of dawn pierced through the tiny window of my cell, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. The night had been an ordeal, a brief glimpse into the harsh reality faced by those behind bars. I emerged from the prison with a newfound appreciation for the preciousness of freedom and the haunting knowledge that the echoes of solitude would forever haunt my memories. My night in the American prison was a harrowing experience that left an indelible mark on my soul. The isolation, the whispers of the incarcerated, and the pervasive sense of despair served as a chilling reminder of the harsh realities faced by those imprisoned within the walls. As I stepped back into the world of the free, I carried with me the echoes of solitude, a haunting reminder of the darkness that exists just beyond the reach of society's gaze. I'll never forget the day I stepped foot onto Alcatraz Island, the infamous prison located in San Francisco Bay, California. As a paranormal investigator, I had explored many haunted locations, but Alcatraz was a place that sent shivers down my spine before I even set foot on the island. My time there would become a chilling tale of history, incarceration, and eerie encounters. Alcatraz, often referred to as the Rock, was one of America's most notorious federal prisons. It housed some of the most dangerous criminals in U.S. history, and its history is marred by tales of escape attempts, violence, and isolation. As I arrived on the island, the imposing prison complex loomed over me. The very sight of the stark, forbidding structure was enough to evoke a sense of dread. The island's isolation in the middle of the cold, murky waters added to the eerie ambience. My group and I were given a tour of the prison, learning about its infamous inmates, harsh conditions, and legendary escape attempts. The penitentiary's reputation for being haunted was no secret, and it was said to be inhabited by the restless spirits of former inmates and guards. As we entered the cell blocks, the air grew noticeably colder, and I could feel a palpable sense of oppression. The feeling of being watched was constant, and whispers of ghostly encounters from other visitors only heightened our unease. One story that particularly intrigued me was the daring escape attempt in 1962, when 3 inmates vanished from their cells, triggering one of the most extensive manhunts in U.S. history. The fate of the escapees was unknown, and some speculated that they had perished in the treacherous waters surrounding the island. In the very cell where the escapees had been held, we heard phantom footsteps echoing through the corridors. We couldn't help but wonder if the restless spirits of the escapees were still trying to make their way to freedom. We ventured into the prison's hospital wing, a place where inmates who had lost their minds were confined. The room where electroconvulsive therapy had been administered sent chills down my spine. It was said that the spirits of those who had suffered here still lingered. As we explored the wing, we heard agonizing cries and incoherent whispers that seemed to come from all around us. The heavy, oppressive atmosphere was suffocating, and it was as though the tormented souls of the past were trying to communicate their anguish. Throughout our visit, we encountered numerous unexplained phenomena. Our cameras malfunctioned, capturing strange orbs and shadowy figures. The cold spots in the prison were impossible to dismiss as mere drafts, and we felt an unshakable sense of being touched by unseen hands. In the cafeteria, where inmates had once congregated, we heard faint, ghostly laughter and the clinking of utensils against plates, even though we were entirely alone in the room. As our tour of Alcatraz came to an end, I couldn't help but reflect on the prison's harrowing history and the eerie encounters we had experienced. Alcatraz had been a place of torment, desperation, and unfulfilled escape dreams, and it seemed that the anguish of its past still lingered in the form of restless spirits. My experience on the haunted island of Alcatraz served as a chilling reminder that even in the most foreboding and desolate places, the past may continue to echo with the voices of those who suffered within its walls. The haunting memories of Alcatraz will stay with me, a testament to the enduring presence of history and the unquiet spirits of the past.